Right, ladies and gentlemen, probably mostly gentlemen, which is perfectly fine. Welcome to episode 2 of the Broco Podcast. Heck yeah, welcome back. As you all can see if you're on YouTube, if not, as y'all will soon hear, we got a new voice, other co-host, which selfishly decided to ditch us last week for his anniversary.
I almost did it again too.
I would have said something on that one. I'm like 2 weeks in a
Uh,
row, man. Come on. But no, we get it. We get it. We get it. We get it. 19th wedding anniversary is huge, man.
That's huge.
Congratulations, dude.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Bro, not many people, unfortunately, nowadays can say that. That is just huge. What'd you guys do?
You know what? It's a little bit of work.
Just
Just
a
a
little,
little.
huh?
That's not a bad thing. I share that because, like, I see a lot of friends that they've been through, and they're like, "Man, I don't know if I can keep on going." Um, there's a book 41 about George H.W. Bush, and it talks about like the relationship that he had with his wife, who's a Barbara Bush, and it was never 50-50. It was always 100-100.
hmm
I think the closer that we get to that in our own relationship, the easier it gets. But it's not
Yeah,
without work. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
much truth in
that's not a
that.
bad
Not
thing.
without work, for sure.
Yeah,
100%. It's
yeah.
never 50-50. I've never liked that saying before. It doesn't make sense. So I'm only supposed to give 50% of my effort. It
Yeah,
seems
you
like a
only get
cop-out.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. So y'all, you know me and you know John. We're gonna give Michael some time to introduce himself, tell y'all who he is, where he comes from, all that good stuff. Michael, I told them you're a Marine and a fellow firefighter, brother. That is all they know. So it's on you, bro.
Cool. Man, well, first and foremost, I appreciate the invite. I did 20 years in the Marine Corps. I was very fortunate to be promoted to the rank of Master Sergeant, so I was able to have a pretty significant influence. I had the opportunity to shape and change the culture in which we look at some of the problems that we were experiencing in the Marine Corps by the time I retired. And I was really fortunate that I had the privilege to serve alongside some phenomenal Marines, many of whom gave me the opportunity to lead them along the way. So having retired just over 4 years ago now, I've gotten back into volunteer firefighting. That's where this all began. At a firehouse in a small town, Pennsylvania, I had a girl tell me the only reason I was attending college to be an Army officer is because I didn't have the balls to be a Marine. I showed her. Showed her. She's actually somebody I've been fortunate enough to work with her in her health over the past year or so. We reconnected. She came back and said, that was just a joke. You didn't actually have to.
No, no, no. Your life's based on a joke.
Yeah, like that wasn't serious. But
Oh, man.
I'm blessed. I've got two incredible kids. I've got an amazing wife. We mentioned her. Um, that was kind of a Yahoo Personals. I don't know anybody watching this if they're old enough to even know Yahoo Personals way back in like 2005, 6 time frame. Um, that was kind of like a one-time date that just turned into gotcha.
Heck
And
yeah.
it's been a thing, but my journey into leadership, which I think is what brings us here today, really started just about 9 years ago. And positional leadership was almost exclusively what I had experienced by that point in time in my life. And getting to be around people who were working on their leadership and trying to learn different things and nuances and just doing so much with their life. Like having the vision and knowing who they were and being able to take that and turn it into something greater than I ever would have imagined. It was the inspiration which has really just sparked this entire journey. So here I am. I work for myself. I get to help primarily veterans and first responders, sometimes educators with their health. I respond to fire calls every chance that I have. We just got back home about 30 minutes ago from a structure fire, if you want to keep that family in their prayers.
For sure.
But that's life.
That's awesome. That's
Write my
Michael in a nutshell, huh?
Love it.
I write my own story. I like it.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned, I forget how you worded it. You took part of your leadership in the Marines. You were able to cultivate and change some things. I forget how you worded it, but if you are able to, do you want to kind of expound a little bit on kind of what things you were able to kind of influence or change, if that makes sense? If I'm hitting it right, if I
You,
have no
you
idea
are.
what I'm talking about.
Try and say what I can about it.
For sure.
I wasn't in a super sexy crazy job, but there were definitely some areas that we were able to improve upon for protecting our Marines. And it seems really simple, like the act of protecting Marines. Do Marines need to be protected? It's kind of a weird thing, but when it came down to it, there were a couple things that we were doing in our day-to-day life that were not giving us the edge on the battlefield. And so through my job, as I was working in primarily in security, sometimes in operations, I was able to identify some shortfalls and take those forward to very, very senior decision makers all the way at the top. The officers working in the Pentagon and brief senior Marine Corps officers and say, General, this is my observation. This is what we have been able to do about it so far. These are my recommendations, but then taking my recommendations and handing them over to the leader, that 1 or 2% leader who's at the pinnacle, and enabling the people who are working for them to make the decisions, having those meetings and literally having generals say, we have not been looking at this the way that we should be, and we are going to change the way that we conduct operations based on.
That's
Snap.
huge.
Yeah, that was pretty humbling, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
And you
that's
know what?
awesome, dude.
I appreciate it. Like, truly, it wasn't, I was one person. There were probably at any given point in time 70 to 100 people who were involved in like making those changes.
Sure.
And there were 1 or 2 people who were at the very top that said, I have the trust and faith in you that you're going to do things the right way. Don't let me down. And having that freedom to work, that was everything. That was so cool. Yeah.
It's always a good feeling when the people you're working for or working under, or however you want to put it, are like, you know what? You go do your job because you're gonna get it done. Have fun. Basically like a hands-off approach. They're not that micromanaging and they trust you enough to be like, I know I don't have to worry about you, dude, so just go do your thing and I'll be here if you need me.
That's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. John, I forgot to like give you a little time to at least say hi to people. I apologize. You are here.
I'm here. I'm in
I
the
just kind of
background.
jumped right into it.
I'm in the background. I am just
I
taking in
just kind
Michael's
of,
story, man. I am loving it because I'm thinking about, John Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership and Michael talking about essentially like the law of essentially trust, right? It's called the law of solid ground. And essentially what that means is, if you want to be a good leader, then you got to have trust. Trust is the foundation of anything. It's that solid foundation. And, you can tell just from his story, like his leaders above him had so much trust in what he was doing in that solid ground that, it just personified his leadership. So I just love taking it all in, man. Michael, that was a great story. I appreciate you sharing.
No, I appreciate that.
absolutely, guys. So, all right. So now you got all three of us. That's all three of us. All three of your co-hosts. You got the backstory. By the way, we did say that. John, show them your shirt. We're
Boom.
twinning. Didn't even plan it. Didn't even plan it, but thank you, SoCon, for the shirts.
Mm-hmm.
SoCon's men's ministry is where we got that. But when you're just on the same wavelength, it just
It
happens.
does.
So tonight's topic, we'll just jump right into it like we seem to do, and it seems to work out well. So tonight's topic is understanding your core values as a man and how that kind of shapes your decisions, your lifestyle, really kind of anything and everything you do in life. Either of you gentlemen kind of want to jump in just as a general overview. Why is it's not something I think is like readily in our mind, right? Like understanding core values. Why the heck do I need to understand my core values? What is a core value? Why should I even understand it in the first place? Why is this important that I even figure out what my core values are? A lot of us probably haven't even really taken the time to think about it like that. I'll pass it over to one of you gentlemen. What are personal values and why would they be important? How does understanding as a man, understanding your core values help you lead
Mm.
and be more of who you're called to be?
John, you want
Yeah,
to start on that one?
Yeah.
I've got it.
Yeah. I
yeah.
I can start with that one. I love that one.
This is a round table.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can all chime in.
Yeah.
And,
I
yeah,
I can start with that one. That one's pretty good. So, core values. When I think about core values, I think about those moments in life when things are just sucky. The things when you're just in the muck and, life is hitting you from all corners. When it rains, it pours, all the things that are going on. And I think about us as men when you're in those kind of situations and life is just hitting you from all angles, how you process decisions and how you decide to make the decisions that you do. And I think it's in those moments in particular where our core values come out and shine, because it's easy to make decisions when things are going right, when things are going well, when jobs are going well, your relationship with your bride is like, just top notch, all these things. But it's when you're really faced with struggles and trials that, those core values come out. And those are the things that drive you. Those are the things that drive your decision making skills. And those are the times where you can really see, those are the things that influence what I do, right? Ultimately, when we are challenged, we do revert back to those things that are near and dear to our hearts, those things that we prioritize and we value. And understanding those is really important, and trying to be consistent with those, because those will make or break you in a lot of ways, as a husband, as a father, as a leader, all those things. So that's just open it up.
I mean, I think you mentioned as a husband and a father, but that's where it all begins. We get our core values from the time we're too young to remember at this point.
Right.
And
Yeah.
being able to be present and to pay attention to things, little things, like maybe you guys followed your dad to a weekly event or a monthly event. Maybe our parents were involved in the church, whatever it may be. As we grow up, we get our different influences and teachers, educators, things that we observe. Understanding where our core values are coming from. I think, being at the ripe age of 43 right now, if we go too far from those core values, we're going to feel friction in our daily life. We're going to be out of line.
Mhm.
Something is going to be off, and it'll manifest in our sleep. It'll manifest in the way that we show up for our loved ones, our coworkers, those who are leading, whoever it may be. Those core values, there's something to staying true to them, and there's something to deliberately demonstrating them, not flaunting. We're not
Right.
looking,
Right. Yeah.
but at the same point in time, when people recognize and anticipate that you won't be able to do the right thing in a given situation because they know that's your values and they know that's who you are, good things come into your life. It may look like it's by accident, but it's not.
Right. No, absolutely not. God has a plan for every one of our lives. And so there's a reason everything happens, for sure. I think, especially in today's society, in today's culture, especially for men, knowing their core values also helps in making sure we don't get we don't, I'm not really sure what I just said. We don't get led astray is what I was going for. We don't get led astray by this culture, the society, the social media. If you know your core values, then you know who you are, who God's created you to be. Knowing them more intimately, I feel, would lead you to better sticking to those values and not doing something that's against those, obviously, right? Like a lot of people in today's society, especially on social media or entertainment industry or whatever, they just want to fit in, they just want to have friends, they just want to kind of follow the next big trend. And I feel like, and I've seen it a bunch of times, where a lot of people, men especially, I don't want to say especially, but a lot of men too, kind of go against either what they don't notice are their core values or their beliefs. They will kind of go against it. It leaves them kind of more open to making decisions that go against those initial values and beliefs to fit in or to get popular or to, make that friend they thought they wanted or needed. Turns out it was just a bad influence, right? So that's my thoughts on it. Do you think that's not knowing your core values leaves you open to kind of more outside influence, turning against yourself, making decisions that you normally, wouldn't make? I'm sure all three of us could have plenty of stories where we look back on our lives and we're like, I have no idea what I was thinking in that moment. I don't normally do that. Or you make a decision or you say something, right? And you're just like, that wasn't me. I'm so sorry. Or, years later or in the moment, you're like, I don't know where that came from. It's because maybe you weren't as in touch with your core values, and no one's perfect, right? But you got pulled away from that and you made a decision that went against it. Those are just my.
It would be like going out to sea without a compass.
Mm,
What are you going to do? Nobody knows which direction you're going to go. Nobody knows. Without having that guide, that direction to follow, every now and then you're going to do the right thing, but you could easily end up lost, both metaphorically and physically,
no,
spiritually.
100%. Like, spiritually, all of it. How do you know who you are or who you're supposed to be if you don't have a guide?
That's right. That's right.
And, that cuts into the whole macho, I'm a man, I don't need anybody, hear me roar, I can do my own thing. But we know where that goes, especially when you do it without God. I know how that goes. I walked away for almost 10 years.
Hmm.
I can tell you every single choice I made in those 10 years just did some more destructive damage either to me or someone else.
Oh, wow.
Because I knew what I was doing went against my core values. I knew I shouldn't have been living that lifestyle. I knew it wasn't right. It felt weird, you know?
Hmm.
I knew that wasn't me. That's not what I should have been doing. But to be like, or to even chuck that compass overboard, right? Like, I got it, God. Or
That's right.
just, chuck it into the sea and be like, I can find my own way. And then the storms come up. You're like, I really should have kept that compass on me. It's like one of those, crap
Uh,
moments. But
it's true.
yeah,
It's true. Ian, I want to say one more thing on that too. And because I think sometimes people can get the misunderstanding that it's like a one-time decision that's like way against our core values, or that is this big monumental thing that happens. And it's not usually. Usually what it is it's small steps repeated over time. So it's like originally it's like that compass piece. It's like you have that true north that you're going towards. But if every day you take one step off or 1 degree off of that line, before you know it, you're so far off you can't see the path anymore. And those core values that you're initially following are nowhere in sight, and you have no idea how to get back to them. So it's those little things that happen over time that we justify or we rationalize in some way that clouds what our core values truly are.
do you guys think, this is just a thought that popped into my old mind brain up in here. Do you guys think not being in tune with your core values has any physical or mental effect as well?
Without a doubt.
100%.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Expand. Why so?
Physical, I mean, you're going to make decisions that could literally put you in danger, will impact your health, whether it's alcohol, tobacco, submitting to peer pressure. We think about when we were younger, like I think many men out there, I don't want to make the assumption that everybody, but I don't know too many guys who claim that they were saints in their early 20s. We had our journey.
Hmm.
And how does that manifest? Any number of things. Driving 110 miles an hour on a motorcycle down the highway and not just putting yourself in danger, but putting other people in danger, and then drinking in excess. There's nothing wrong with a drink every now and then. If you open up the bar and then you go back and you close up the same bar after hitting 2 or 3 other
Hmm.
places between, like there is some decisions that are going on there. And then that could also go for any number of other aspects of life. Just there are so many different things. But I think it's difficult because as we have this conversation, we're established. We're a little bit older. We've got a little bit of life experience. We've probably seen friends go through the repercussions if we haven't been through them ourselves. And I think like the question where that comes down to is how do we pass that on to the next generation? How do we pass that on to our own children so that they can learn? Because I think it's safe to say, like, every parent out there wants their kid's life to be good, probably better than theirs. Maybe you had a great childhood. I'm fortunate. There isn't a whole lot that I want for my kids than for them to have a great childhood and have all the opportunities. But recognizing they're going to have hardship, how much hardship can we share with them for them to understand? Because those values are also built in the hardship, and they're built in the times where you're either doing the things or you're not doing the things. How do we pass that on to our kids? Because at some point they have to learn their own lessons as well.
Dude, I was just gonna say, like that comes into letting your kids be able to make those mistakes sometimes and knowing when to step back and not be overprotective, not be like, I got all the answers you need. Listen, even
Hmm.
if you do have the answer, even if you know how it's gonna turn out. Obviously, as long as it's not endangering the kid. Obviously, if they're gonna put their tongue in a light socket, you might want to step in instead of be like, they'll learn their lesson. But that's a little extreme. But for everything else, like I don't know. I'm sure y'all can come up with some scenarios, but like I was just trying to think what my 5-month-old was doing sometimes, and now I'm just kind of like, well, I know she's only 5 months, but she's got to learn that if she puts everything in her mouth, some of it's not going to taste good,
It's
some of
true.
it's just going to be weird. So I'll just gotta let her figure it out. But yeah, you got to be willing. That's where and then that leaves us open to teach those values,
Hmm.
right?
100%.
I think that's what you're getting at, Michael. Like yeah, you got to let them make their decisions, and then they'll learn something, but then you also get to kind of open up, be like, all right, cool. Here's what I would have done differently with my experience, or I've done that before and I had the same result, but now you know, so let's work on something different. Let's work on how to better be prepared for that situation or that response, or, what can we do internally to work on ourselves and create that core value to deal with that specific situation. John, thoughts?
I agree. We'll just leave it at that. No, I'm just kidding.
That's
Yeah.
a cop
Look at that, cop
out.
out.
Wrong answer.
No, I got a lot of good thoughts going on upstairs on that one. No, I think it's a lot of good thoughts there, and I think if we just were to tell our kids or anybody like what to do all the time, they're not going to develop those core values. They're not going to see the importance of having those core values, because to them it's going to be, oh, that's dad's core value. That's dad's core value, because that's what he preaches. But it's like, if we want to pass these things along, like you guys have been talking about, a way to help instill that is to allow them to go through the journey and allow them to go through the process. And sometimes those are going to be good things. Sometimes they're not going to be good things. Like right now I'm working with, my 8-year-old son on dealing with some tough friends right now. Some friends who are really good friends, but some of the behaviors are not great. And as much as I want to step in and I want to, bring out the daddy clause a little bit, I have to let him wrestle with it. I have to let him wrestle with it a moment. I got to let him experience it and let him come to me with the questions. So let him come to me with the concerns or whatnot, and be able to have those conversations. And it's important because it's through those that they're going to learn the lesson. Because if I just step in every time, or we do as dads and fathers, which we might want to do, what are we really teaching and what are they really learning? We're just learning that dad's always going to be there. And I hate to break it to every dad out there, is like, we're not always going to be around for our kids. As much as we might want to be, I mean, we're not going to be. And so when we're not there, we want them to live with those kind of same values that we're trying to pass down, those core values. So it can be a struggle at times. Don't get me wrong. It can certainly be a struggle, but it's when you see them make the decisions down the road on their own that reflect the core values you're trying to teach, that make you go, okay, it's worth it. Something good is going on here. And it's like, it's one of those proud dad moments, where you see them
Yeah,
exhibiting
when you
those
when you
core
see it
values.
click.
Exactly. Like when my son is playing basketball and another kid on the other team goes down, the first thing I notice is my son runs over and kneels next to him to check on him. And I'm like, something's going right here. Or at the end of practice where he goes up and thanks the coach. There's 12 kids on the team and he's the only one that thanks the coach after practice. It's like, all right. I'm pretty excited
That's
about
cool.
this.
That's awesome, dude. So we're 25 minutes into this, and it just hit me. We probably should have defined what a core value is before we got started. But if you've made it this far, you're 26 minutes in, and now we're going to do a quick definition. Because maybe you're like, I don't even know what the heck that means, and that's perfectly fine.
And this is just episode 2, and we're just
So,
starting to figure this whole thing out. So, I mean, we might define things earlier on in
right.
future episodes. Who knows?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all for fun anyway. So defining. So actually, that'd be a good segue, John, because like you were talking about your son being able to thank the coach and check in with his teammates that are down. So what would those core values be? What do you think? What core values do you think that is?
Well, the core values are going to differ from person to person, family to family, but I think, for me and my family, I'm trying to teach core values that align with God. I'm trying to teach ones that align biblically. I'm trying to teach ones that, that Christ came to teach us and to live a life like Christ. And so I try to help him see that those are the core values to learn, and that's kind of like a life of servanthood a little bit, and checking up on people and caring and compassion and all these things. And, so that's a little bit with how we do it. But I also know that core values evolve over time. Just what we try to teach now, they do evolve over time. But for me, the core values are the things that when something comes up, they're the things that you always go back to. They're the things that, deep inside of you that really matter more than anything else, really. For me, that's love, that's compassion, is, putting others above yourself, all the things the Bible teaches us, essentially. But I know it looks different for other people too. What do you guys think?
Yeah. Yeah, core values are definitely the things that shape our actions and decisions. And Michael, you can expound on that as well, man.
I mean, as we think about values, like as we're talking about this, and I looked at this subject for what we're talking about tonight, and I'm like, oh dang, like we could go deep.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably bring out the dictionary and like,
Okay.
but I mean, core values, I think a lot of that is just knowing who you are. That fits in with your belief in yourself, confidence, and a number of different things. But you don't have to believe that community service is a great value to have. You don't have to believe any number of different things. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a good person. Being able to apply your values, and I think, as we're talking within the realm of the Bible, which truthfully I really need to read from cover to cover. I have not done that. I need to, but
Yeah. Highly recommend
hmm
it. Highly recommend it.
you can pick people out in public. When you know who you are, you can see the people in your life that don't have their values, or they're not living life in order with their values. And they are, to go back to what we were saying earlier, they're lost and they're looking for something. They're looking for someone. They're looking for, whether it's companionship or support, belief from others, whatever it may be. And just simply knowing what you believe in and what you will do for yourself and for others. John, the way that you broke down, like, your son or the thanking a coach and talking about that, we teach the lessons. It's the experience that really teaches the values. And I think it's that simple. Knowing, yes, it felt good to do this. No, it did not feel good to do that. And having a coach, a guide, a mentor, a parent, the Bible, the Lord, whoever it may be, hopefully somebody of good influence, because we know what happens when it's not somebody
hmm
of good influence. We can see that if we turn on cops or any number of other things. It's the difference in making good decisions and bad decisions. And it just, I don't know, as I think about core values, I go back to the simple act of going to bingo every Monday night with my dad when I was a kid. And I wasn't old enough to help out in the kitchen. I mean, I was probably like 6, 7 years old. But I would go, I would sit there, I would ask when we're going home. I would eat a tub of French fries, and I would get a Powerhouse bar, which I don't even know if they still make those. That was my Monday night. But what I saw was my dad volunteering, and I saw a community that came together and really enjoyed that. And then I saw the money, the bingo that he volunteered at, going back out into the community to do good for those in need. There was a lesson there. And then having the opportunity to take that as a child and then as a Boy Scout and then becoming a man, it kind of carried over a whole bunch.
hmm
Sure.
Absolutely.
What values? What values from that Monday night that you so passionately remember and vividly remember through now
Definitely,
that helped shape your way through, through Boy Scouts and everything like that? What values did you get from
definitely
those
community
experiences?
service.
Because honestly, I
Yeah,
never thought about the fact that it's the experience that
yeah,
shapes the values,
hmm
right?
yeah.
So sorry, I cut you off. Yeah.
No, it definitely community service. Like, that is a huge one. Giving your time and being present. But I also saw a lot of fellowship there. And, as we think about like brotherhood and where we're at right now and how we even just came to be a part of this, Dad would go because that was part of his social time. I couldn't go to work with him. He was working for the government, but I could see him with all the guys, and they would tell jokes, and they would support one another, and they would be present, and they would come together for a greater cause. Those are all things, if you think about them, like, those are things that we do now in our adult life. Maybe we don't want to be exactly like our parents. I don't think that's a bad thing. We want to take the best pieces of
hmm
our parents and carry them with us and then apply them through our own lens, through our own experience and our own opportunities. And I think that's really like one of the coolest parts of not just parenting, but showing up in the community and hopefully being a person who gives more good than they take.
For sure. For sure. And you can definitely tell, especially for you, how that, like you said, transcended to Boy Scouts and then the Marine Corps,
hmm
and now, volunteer and firefighter. That community service is probably a huge center of core value, obviously. It's shaped your decisions. That and the joke that you weren't good enough to be a Marine, which probably
Yeah,
had a
that
lot to
hurt.
do with your decision
Yeah,
making
exactly.
also.
That cut. That cut.
That girl knows how to get right to the
Yes, she
heart.
does. Wow.
I'll tell you what, I showed her. I think I stepped foot in like 25 different countries over my career.
Well,
Wow.
So,
shoot.
yeah, like, it worked out okay. Working in Panama, working in the Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Brazil.
Nice.
Yeah, people don't know Marines go down there too.
I honestly didn't. Most of my military buddies are Army
Yep.
or Navy.
Yeah,
Very true.
And my dad's Army, grandparents, all Army. So
that's
I
cool.
thought Marines were a lot more specialized in their locations, I guess. But I guess, yeah, they go wherever they needed.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Not
awesome.
bad places.
All right, Ian, what about you?
That didn't sound like any bad places at all.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
all places I'd like to go on vacation for the
Exactly.
most
Yeah.
part.
yeah, yeah, for
So I
sure.
know there are those. What about me? What are some core values? Is that the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. Best say
That
you got
is
it
the
from us. So what about
question.
you, Ian?
Core values, core values. Michael stole community service, so I guess I can't use that one. Just kidding. Service in general is a big one. Provision, I think, is another one for my family. My family being a husband and father is something that I wanted um, from a young age, that I knew I was kind of called to be, that I take a great amount of pride in doing. My story is a little different. I didn't grow up with a dad. My parents got divorced when I was 10. So, I saw him every other weekend as the court ordered till I was 18. And then even I think a little before that, I was able to be like, I don't want to go over to your house. I want to go hang with my friends, and kind of started going that route. So like a lot of my, and like I explained, a lot of my initial core values were unfortunately pushed aside in the search of wanting to fit in with certain crowds that weren't healthy, wanting to be accepted by people regardless of their influence. Obviously you can relate that back to not having it, feeling abandoned by my dad when he left, or whatever the case may be. And I was able to work through that years later. But coming on the backside of things now, service is definitely a core value. Provision for family and using the business that I'm building, one of my whys is definitely so I can provide for other people the way I didn't get a chance to do growing up, or that I wish other people could have, if that makes sense. Not to be selfishly like, hey, we deserve to be given stuff, but, so I can bless people in a way that, because I know what it is like to go without a dad. I know what it's like to have to move from house to house to house trying to find a place to live. I know what it's like to grow up in a family where your mom works 3 or 4 jobs just to keep ends meet, and you got 2 younger brothers you got to look after, and you don't really want to do that. So you're a horrible older brother, and you just kind of find anything else to do rather than, take care of them and be in their lives. And, so I know what it's like to struggle through all that. And, moving into teenage years and stuff like that, it just, continued to get worse. And, I've been full with money and all that stuff. But service is huge for me, for sure. Serving my family, serving, as a firefighter as well, serving the community I work for in the moment. And as this business grows and God blesses it, I'm allowed to bless more people through it and serve others through it and be a blessing that way. So I think service is definitely a huge core value of mine, something that I take very seriously.
You mentioned a business. I think there's a common core value with a lot of us of protector.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the firefighter, you think about the educator, you think about the mom who's trying to be present. Like there are a lot of moms who are trying to be more present or trying to help out their husband. There's a huge protector aspect value. Maybe that's more of a trait, but it's in there. And most people have that. But where does it come from? And to have so many people who have it in one tiny little area, it's kind of an interesting thing to recognize, because who do we know that's protecting? Like, who is it that just left their spouse because it wasn't a good situation? Who is it that volunteers in the community and they're putting themselves in harm's way? For what? Like, yeah, adrenaline's fun, but at some point in time, like, it wears off.
Right. That's good.
Just a thought, yeah. Like, I think there might be a
Yeah.
common couple of values that we could find and pick out as we recognize individuals.
Absolutely.
No doubt. So then, since this is a leadership podcast,
Mm-hmm.
right? We retain everything back to leadership. We kind of touch on it here and there. For you, fine gentlemen, what would be how do we take our core values and apply them to leadership? Whether that's leadership within our homes, leadership at work, leadership in the church. Maybe you're a single dude, and it's just, hey, I got to figure out how to lead myself in a way, if that makes sense, as I'm following God's guidance. How do core values affect that? How do you implement that in leadership?
I got a good one for that, I think. And I think we've touched upon it a little bit here in different ways tonight, and it's come up a couple different times, but it's this idea of confidence and identity. And I think the more confident that we can be in who we are, I think the more our core values are going to show and help lead our decisions on the day to day. It's when we don't know who we truly are, or maybe like it's who God says we are, or what we truly believe in because we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants looking for that. That's where, we can get into a little bit of trouble. But it's when we have that true confidence in who we are. And I'll be honest, I didn't even feel like I had that until my mid 20s minimum. I think it was closer to 30. I really tied that true sense of who I was meant to be. Because Ian, you and I share similar stories of growing up in a fatherless house and not having that role model and all these different things and seeing that. And, it definitely shaped my core values some. But I think as you talked about, and as you asked, how does that relate back to leadership? I think if we truly have that confidence in who we are and what we believe in at a deep core level, that can influence our day-to-day decisions and as we lead others. I think about leading our family when we have to go through like disciplining our children. We can always bring it back to what it is that we believe in at the core level. Okay, maybe it's how we lead our teams, whether it's in business or our coaching teams for sports, whatever it is. Again, our styles and our personalities that come out are again hopefully going to reflect our confidence in who we are and our identity. So I think that's, for me at least, that's how it influences how I lead in my life, is I try to always revert it back to what it is I truly believe in and who I am.
So, a friend of mine who lives down in, well, where he lives doesn't matter. He's got a saying that he told me, and he said, you know what, I feel good telling you this because I think you'll take it the right way, but some people might. He said, may you get what you deserve. And I think it's that simple. If you know who you are, if you believe in your values, you should be able to treat others the way that you would like to be treated. And if you can do that, and they stay around, or you gather more, if it's at least equal, hopefully more, then you're probably doing okay. But, when it comes to exemplifying your core value, I think it's really that simple. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. Maybe you didn't have the best opportunities. Maybe you weren't treated well. I go back to my first 4 years in the Marine Corps. I was in artillery. When my section chief left, his boss pulled me aside and he's like, "Hey, dog, he treated you rough. Like, he did not take care of you. Are you okay?" And I'm
Sure.
like, "Well, like, not really planning on staying in at this point." And he's like, "Look, dog, you're all right. Like, you're all right. You should know that. You're okay. Just, keep on going." And, like, all right, I ended up having impact. I ended up having influence. I briefed people that sit in the State of the Union address with the president. And this guy almost pushed me out. Like, was he aligned? Would he have taken that from somebody else? Probably not. Do I have thoughts on him? Absolutely. Now, fortunately, I was able to like learn from that and learn that I did not want to be him and I did not respect him. And it's kind of funny how it came back because about a year ago I was talking with our commander and he's like, "Hey, that guy was an absolute, like, this is going on YouTube. That guy was a turd." But treat others the way that you want to be treated. It's because if you're in a position of any kind of authority, like there's a difference between being a manager and a leader. I think a lot of people miss that. I think a lot of people fail to understand that. That's probably an entire topic on its own. It is an entire topic on its own.
Oh, yeah.
For
But
sure.
you don't have to be a manager to be a leader, and you don't have to be in a position of authority to be a leader.
100%.
You could probably look at some of the greatest mutinies in history, and the actual leader of the mutiny was probably somebody who was way down toward the bottom. They didn't have a whole lot of authority, but people respected them and they knew who they were. And they knew what they believed in, and they were able to articulate that in a meaningful way. Knowing who you are, treating people the way that you would want to be treated, and may you get what you deserve.
Yeah.
Simple.
I mean, it's as simple as
Exactly.
that,
Simple.
right? Honestly, that's it. Yeah, it's simple, it's straightforward, and 100%, dude. You can tell people a lot of the times just by observing them for like 30 seconds, but the way they act, the way they interact with people, the way they speak, whether or not they're aligned or treating people the way they want to be treated. Unfortunately, a lot of people in this day and age don't. They just kind of lash out a lot or tense and angry all the time. And I know we're already at 45 minutes, but you were talking about treating people the way they want to be treated, and a thought crossed my mind. Do you guys think core values you can align yourself with bad core values? Like people purposely choose bad core values or find themselves aligned. That one was hard for some reason. Aligned to bad core values instead of just like being misaligned to their core values and having that come out in the way that they act or what they say or what they do, anxiety, depression, addictive behaviors. We talked about that already. Do you think that there's also a possibility where it's kind of a little more sinister than that? Like the core values themselves can be bad?
I think without a doubt, and I've seen that in my life. I've seen that in the most extreme context in my life. When you rule out, like, take out the sociopaths and psychopaths, they exist, they're a thing. Take them out. My opinion would be those who deliberately choose to live by values which are, as a society, we probably call like substandard, lacking, immoral could be another word for it. It's because it's easy. It's because there's an absence of discipline. And maybe there's fear of rejection. Surely there are underlying themes, because that doesn't just happen. But fear of rejection, fear of acceptance is a thing for some people. There are a few people in the fire service, maybe you see it, in the education realm, maybe you see it. There's some people that it's like they're just waking up. And that's it. And it's like they don't have anything. And beyond knowing who you are, it's recognizing that you're in charge of yourself. You manage your own life. And there's got to be some disappointment somewhere that leads somebody to that. Like I've made grown men cry in foreign languages and in American languages too. US, American. English. English is a language. That's what
You
I'm
know how to
looking for.
insult people across all languages. Get
When
it.
when you can ask somebody a question that probes them, their intellect, their mindset, and their values so deeply that they break down and accept, like, this is not where I wanted to be right now, that moment has the potential to be life-changing. And it's incredible because, like, you can take somebody who's just living this path, and if you're able to break through that, you can see the change in their face and in their eyes.
Because it's a hard change.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
gets down to the core values is a hard change. And, out of the well of the heart, the Bible talks all about that, is where our actions and everything comes from. You change your core value, you got that aha moment, and it's a heart change. And it's awesome, 100% awesome to watch people have that change. It's almost intoxicating, really, because you're like, you get it. Oh my gosh, your life is going to be so awesome. Like
Exactly.
totally different. Yeah. So that was great. I love it. John, any closing thoughts?
No, but I'd say, yeah, some people will call those convictions. And when you see someone become convicted, it's life changing. It really is. I mean, I think about even just myself, some of the convicting moments I had. One of them was something simple, just becoming a father. Your wife is pregnant and you're going through all the birthing classes, and it's like, okay, this is gonna be fun, this is gonna be cool. I'm learning on how to be a dad. I'm talking to a lot of people, but until you see that baby or hold the baby for the first time, it doesn't quite set in. And that might just be for me, but there was something truly convicting about holding your first child for the first time. I don't know. Something
For
was.
sure.
And like you said, when things are convicting, it hits you on the heart level. Like, I never knew I could love something so little, so much until I held it. Right. So, no, I think, yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. It is. It is crazy cool. It is awesome. Convictions is also the name of a really good Christian metal band, so y'all should definitely check that out.
Good point. Good point.
Just saying. Convictions, Then It Ends. I got a whole list of them. Y'all need to hit me up. They're fantastic.
His playlists are pretty good. I won't lie.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Man, so that's, I feel like we could keep going all
Oh, we
night,
could.
honestly. But yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But we are going to end it there. Guys, I give you some homework to the listeners. We want you to really think about core values, things that are important to you, that have shaped who you are, your core beliefs. And if you feel like it, share it with us in the comments or in the DMs, or, Spotify has comments now. I know YouTube has comments. Share 5 of them with us. It's just something, there's also something like freeing and releasing about, at the very least, write them down for yourself and just look at them every single day, because it's life changing when you really get to know you, especially when you're guided by our Father, who has literally written everything out for us in a book, in a 66 chapter book, or page, or whatever. You guys get what I'm saying. What is in a book with 66 different books in it? Yeah, that thing, the Bible. When you get the Bible, that's where I was going. But it's just great. So we would love to hear from you guys what your core values are. If you're up to sharing it, no pressure at all. Drop them in the comments. Drop 5 of them in the comments. DM them to us. Really do some soul searching, because it can really be life changing. So with that, we
Absolutely.
are going to wrap it up for episode dose of the Bro Code podcast. Guys, follow us on YouTube and Spotify. Subscribe and follow. Really appreciate the support on the first episode so far. It's been fantastic. And we will see y'all next week.